Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Wednesday, the third day of January, year of our Lord 2018, welcome to the John Moore Show. Before we get to our prepper tip of the day, a quick reminder, there's some things that hemp oil, medical marijuana does that they do best. I do offer the excellent Canaway line of hemp oil products at my website at thelibertyman.com. Left side of my homepage, right below the photograph of me on my 750-pound Kawasaki motorcycle. Check it out. Prepper tip of the day. Last time I did this, about 6 months ago, I got some thank yous from some of the ladies in our audience. And gentlemen, if you want to be a hero, do the following. Lay in an excellent big supply of feminine hygiene products and birth control products. Figure out what you need and then double it. Seriously. You'll be a hero to the women in your life, and that's a good thing to do. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend, Professor James McCanney. Professor McCanney is a credentialed astrophysicist. He has taught astrophysics at the university level. He's taught mathematics at the university level. He's the author of, I believe, 10 books with more on the way. Amateur archaeologist, radio talk show host. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, John. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir. Happy New Year.
We made
it. It will be a fascinating year, no doubt. They always are. Right now, the big news is a bunch of this. I really think it's beneath the President of the United States to be engaging in this activity called Twitter. I think it's very unpresidential myself, on one hand. On the other, what he's doing is bypassing the mass media, which no president has ever done it in the same manner that he's doing it. And for that, I congratulate him, but I would like to see him maybe back off a bit on some of that stuff. What do you think, sir?
Exactly the same. The news media, has had this holier than thou, oh, you have to go through us. And, that's the way it is in science. So, something I've dealt with my entire life, the political correctness of the science reporting. Just terrible. It's just disgusting when you see what they're doing, what they're hiding, and the baloney that they're passing off on the public. So it's really way overdue. And, if Twitter is the mechanism that breaks them down, then I guess that's the way it's got to be. And unfortunately, but fortunately, it's a double-edged sword, but it's very effective. It gets a message out in you can slam out a Twitter post in less than a minute. So,
right.
In a subtle way with the proper wording. I always used to say, Mrs. Martin Luther King. I would see her in an interview, and Martin Luther King would take 2 hours to say something, and it was all good. But she could take 10 seconds and hit the nail right on the head. She had that ability. And that's what Twitter does. It takes a topic, and in a 10-second read, you get the sarcasm, you get the play on words, the ridiculousness of things that are going on. Whereas the news media, has an entire, newspaper or news section that is bombarding the public with complete disinformation constantly. So bypassing them is, nobody else did that, especially to combat this total barrage of disinformation.
Well, you don't have to dig too deep to find the truth. Another topic in the news today, Jim, is the Governor Brown in California is going to sign up with the Paris climate change agreement himself, bypassing the federal government. And I was talking to a very dear friend of mine, a relative actually, over Christmas about this, and he is a believer that human-caused climate change is a clear and present danger. And I said, Bob, are you aware that these climate change accords in Paris give more than 2 billion people in India and China, the ability to make all the carbon dioxide, alleged CO2 greenhouse gases that we're so deathly afraid of. Are you aware of that? He said, no, I wasn't. And it's right there in the Accords, of course, that 2 billion plus people can make all the alleged greenhouse gases they want to, while we are cutting back in agreement with these accords here in the United States. It flies in the face.
We have to pay them. We have to pay them a total of like $1 trillion collectively over the next number of years. Yeah, it's absurd. You know,
it is. It flies in the face of logic. How if these carbon dioxide is a clear and present danger and needs to be cut back right now to save humanity, how can you possibly give a free pass to more than 2 billion people to make all they want? Those two, they bounce off each other like they just can't exist in the same space.
Right. No, there's a lot of logical misconstructions in this whole global warming thing. For example, let's look at this. If global warming is causing the ice caps to melt in Greenland and in Antarctica, and it's pouring off there into the oceans, which all you have to do is park a ship there, collect this, and then bring it up, and we would have more water. There's 20 times as much water in those two ice caps as there is in all of the rest of the world in fresh water. So how does this become a problem with water shortage? It creates abundant fresh water, more abundant fresh water than, and most of the fresh water is not usable on the planet. This is vast amounts of fresh water that's just pouring into the ocean, and it's there for the taking. So where's the water shortage coming out of this? It's another misstep of logic coming out of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Same, baloney.
Absolutely. Well, what else is on your radar this morning, sir?
Well, the Northeast United States is being hit by what they call a bomb cyclone. And clearly they're getting the business because cyclones can only happen in warm water, we're told. And it's that warm water. So here we got another case, but interesting terminology on CNN and all over the news. A bomb cyclone. As if, and you've heard me talk about weather bombing. So, would they be borrowing Jim McCanney's term to try and take that term and dilute it with the public, give it a different meaning?
Possibly. Yeah, they've done that before, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's a CIA ploy, and CNN, you may as well call it CIA News Network, because that's what it is, or the Clinton News Network, or the Candy Nugget News, as I used to say. But yeah, this with hurricane force winds and just sub-zero temperatures. So anyway, I guess they're getting the business up in northeastern U.S.
Absolutely. Well, we're having record colds. We're not quite breaking records here in south central Missouri, but we're running single digits overnight lows, occasionally 1, 2, 4 or 5 below zero, which we've had that in the past. Almost no precipitation. We're having a pretty severe drought here in south central Missouri. The stock ponds that these cattle ranchers depend on are getting dangerously low, and but we're dealing with it. And compared to 200 miles north of here, Jim, where you have temperature overnight lows in the minus 20-day range, we don't feel so bad here getting 1 below zero.
Right. No, that's a severe cold snap, as they say, and not affecting the West Coast that much. There's kind of a division that you can see coming down from Canada, but when I used to be up in Minnesota, we would call that an Alberta Clipper, and it extends all the way down to Florida this time. A couple of years ago, it extended all the way down to Cuba, where people actually died in hospitals because of hypothermia. And they're typically, you put a sheet on you down there, that's plenty.
Right.
But, people were actually dying in hospitals because of the cold, because, they didn't have blankets.
Right.
But
right.
This is what they call an Alberta clipper. It's a jet stream that goes up to the North Pole, literally, and it comes down, brings that cold air down right across Alberta and down into the Midwestern states. And then the question is, how far does it go? And this time it goes very far.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the jet stream right now on a telecast, and it's coming straight out of Canada down through the central part of the country, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, all the way down to Louisiana, with 120-mile-an-hour winds up there, 5 miles high. Yeah, and it's a straight shot right through the center of the country.
Right, an Alberta clipper. And so, anyway, and that's what I've heard also, is not much snow, not much moisture. So,
not much, as in big zero. Last winter, our total snowfall here was about 3/8 of an inch, which is highly unusual. Typically, we get a few good snows ranging from 4 to 8 inches here in south central Missouri, but that was last winter, and was about 3/8 of an inch.
Well, typically the cycle is between snow and cold. If it's snowing out, it's warm because the moisture is coming in from the south. And so the rule of thumb that I found in the central U.S., if the wind's from the south, it's warm. If the wind's from the north, it's cold. And so, put that in your global warming pipe and smoke it.
Right, right.
That's the way it is.
Right. Well, there's a danger when people get their information in 10-second and 15-second sound bites, which is what most people get most of the time from television news, radio news, and so forth. When you miss the details, such as going back to the Paris Climate Accords, as the old saying goes, the devil is in the details. So people get this idea from and base life-changing decisions, such as they may decide to get an electric automobile because they don't want to contribute to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. If they'd read the details, they would find out that it's a bunch of silliness. And what's your opinion, Jim, of more carbon dioxide getting into the atmosphere, if you have one, sir?
Oh, I have one. It's in fact, it's a topic in my this last December podcast. But let's look at the numbers here. Content of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. John, have you ever heard that the Amazon jungle will replenish our oxygen?
We hear that all the time. It's the ocean that does it, but we hear about the Amazon jungle all the time, right?
Right. Well, if you look at the NASA overall study with satellites of carbon dioxide and oxygen, you would expect a lot of oxygen above the Amazon jungle. It's one of the highest. It's one of the highest carbon dioxide regions of the planet. But the other issue is that we have about 21% oxygen in our atmosphere. We have 0.03% carbon dioxide. So how are we supposed to regenerate 21% of the atmosphere of oxygen with 0.03% carbon dioxide? If you took all the carbon dioxide on the planet and changed it into oxygen, removing the carbon, you would increase the total amount of oxygen by 1/700th the amount of oxygen on the planet. So how does this replenish oxygen? I mean, every kid's book, textbook, all the way up to graduate school meteorology teaches this. It's so absurd, yet people repeat it. It's a physical impossibility. But the reality is we need much, much more carbon dioxide. And the end result is we would have a green planet. There would be places like Arizona and the American Southwest which would start to green because there's more carbon dioxide, which would lower the temperature.
Right. Well, let's put it in simpler terms. The plant life need carbon dioxide to flourish.
Yeah. And if you take a greenhouse, and this is commonly done with greenhouses, you take a greenhouse, you close it up, you double or triple the carbon dioxide level to make the plants grow like crazy.
And get out of the
way. And then what happens is it maintains a cooler temperature in the greenhouse. And we've heard about greenhouse and global warming, so that's absolute proof that this Carl Sagan initiated global warming greenhouse baloney doesn't work. I mean, it's so absurd. But you have scientists who, and it's all a paycheck. It's all about the paycheck. And that paycheck comes from guess who? The World Bank controlled governments that push money into this, because the end result is control of the public and control of water. They can make the public think that they're going to have to pay big bucks for water, which they claim is in short supply, which it's not. It's a water management issue, and the droughts could be rectified overnight by simply using the same techniques that they're using to drive this hurricane bomb into the Northeast. Same techniques could be used to move moisture cells, low pressure cells off the ocean, where they would pick up nice clean water, drop the salt out, no pollution, just water, and drop it any place on land that you want it. But we need vast amounts of carbon dioxide. And these computer calculations that suggest that if you increase carbon by 1%, we will have runaway greenhouse effect. Just garbage. Just garbage.
Amazing. Call numbers 800-313-9443. We'll be back after the break. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need the need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. Quick reminder, I've got Professor McKinney's excellent line of water filters for sale on my website. On the left side of my homepage, right below the spinning globe. Click on that, and you'll get to see his entire line of products of water filters and water storage tanks. Jim, you've got not one but 2 weekly radio shows. Tell people how they can listen live in the archives, if you would, please, sir.
Yeah, thanks, John. And I encourage people also to go to your webpage for the water filters. And everything's in stock. So great line, unmatched any place, in spite of rave, self-praising reviews sometimes on by other companies that sell water filters. None other than my own are made in the United States, so that should be enough for you to analyze what's really going on there. There's really no other company that has quality control that they are in charge of. Very simple. The rest are made in China or India. Right. And basically sweatshops. I've seen them. They're not nice. I don't know if I'd buy a product made there. Anyway, on to announcing about my shows. Every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time from WWCR Nashville, Tennessee, largest radio station in the world, James McCanney Science Hour at the Crossroads. And for about 17 years, that show is ongoing, about 18 years now. And the show re-airs Friday night, 10 p.m., Saturday morning, 3 a.m. from WTWW Nashville. There's many other ways to listen, like satellite, etc. All of that is on my webpage. Just scroll down to the central column, and it's all the different ways to listen to the show. And also my paid cast is a weekly ongoing series. This past month in December, I was dealing with the myth of alternative energy. So anyway, that's available on my webpage, $3.95 a month for that. Anyway, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. And of course, these archives go back more than 10 years for your first show there, and it's a university level lectures that are put in terms that anybody can understand without having to be a university student. Might be one way to say it. Great archives there, and there's been some people who have availed themselves and have gone through all 10 plus years, haven't they, Jim?
Yeah, there are people that contact me and they listen to one a day. If you listen to one a day, it's going to take you years to go through all of those. And right. Typically when I do the shows, I do some current events, but also with an explanation. So if you listen to a show from 15 years ago, you're going to get education that is relevant today. So I always try and I try and keep away from current topics in time that are only valid that week. I try and put it into perspective for a more universal interpretation. And believe me, it's the only place on the planet you're going to find real information regarding science and how you should view science.
Absolutely. Well, I encourage people to listen to the live shows and the archives both. Okay, we've got less than 2 minutes before the next break, Jim. What direction you want to go next?
This may carry into the next section, but there's a trial, and on YouTube, I get a kick out of these like little self-appointed news reporters they sit in Grandma's basement, apparently. But one was reporting on a whole laundry list of people being accused in court of complicity with 9/11, and not the least of which at the very end was Hillary Clinton. But this is, the way I see this is what the Clintons used to call rope-a-dope. Rope-a-dope is like with cattle, you rope something, you like throw a lasso around it, and a dope is a stupid person. So rope-a-dope is the Clintons' term for creating a false story or a false court case in this case to try them in a phony kangaroo court because you can't be accused twice of the same crime.
Right.
Find them innocent, and then that relieves them of any future real court cases on those same issues. So that's what I see going on here. And of course it's in Nevada, in Harry Reid country, where he would have appointed the judges.
Well, the legal concept is double jeopardy. You can't be tried twice for the same matter. We got a caller on hold here. We got Doug in Kentucky. Good morning, Doug.
How you doing?
Doug, hold on.
Jim.
We'll get to you after the break, Doug. Hold on until after the break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 3rd day of June. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. I was reminded the other day that there are things that hemp oil, medical marijuana, can do that other products simply can't. And quick reminder, I do offer the Canaway excellent line of hemp oil products right there at my website. The tile is right below me on my motorcycle there on the left side of my home page. And, of course, the energy cleaner. This is my home business. When you place your order, I'm the guy that boxes them up. I take them to the Cherryville post office, and I get them to you priority mail. Same thing with the fitted mattress pads. If you have joint pain, arthritis pain, almost everybody with arthritis pain gets relief. It's rare occasion that people with arthritis pain don't get relief with the energy cleaner. Check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that I offer also. Most people these days get the mattress pad right at the get-go. It's a great combination. Keep in mind, I do take PayPal. PayPal is the most secure way to make any payment online. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Diners Club. You can send me a check. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Energy Cleaner is only $285, shipping included. We're now offering, as of 2018, we're now offering a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's what we're doing. Toll-free hour line, 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanney. His website's linked to my links page at thelibertyman.com. And Doug, let's get to your comment or question, sir.
Yeah, I have a question for Jim. And I was listening to Coast to Coast. I think it was Robert Ball was on there. And he was speaking about some missing material from the sun's core. And I'd like to hear what Mr. McCanney's comment is on that, and I'll take his answer off the air. Thank you.
Okay,
wait, Robert?
What?
Doug?
Doug? You still there, Doug?
Yeah.
What was this guy's name? I didn't catch it.
I think it was Robert Ball.
With a B or D?
Yeah, with a B.
Bouval, saying something is missing from the sun's core.
Yeah, he was talking about that they had sent a, like some kind of a satellite out there or something, and from their researchers, they had found that there was material missing from the sun's core.
Well,
and I'm not really certain about the name.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's the reality is the fusion of the sun is not in the core. It never was. That's in my book. Very clear that, and this goes back to my papers in the 1970s when I realized that core fusion was a myth. When I was at Cornell University, I talked with Hans Bethe, who was a Nobel Prize-winning Nobel laureate for exactly that, dealing with the energy, the chemistry of the sun and the nuclear reactions. And I told him what I had discovered, that the fusion is not at the core of the sun. Couldn't possibly be. And it was later verified by Russian scientists who did some very interesting measurements using X-rays. But, so I don't know what people are talking about, whatever's missing from the core of the sun. There never was anything there in the first place.
Right. And that's about the answer I expected. And I called up the right man. Thank you very much, Mr. McKinney.
Okay, Doug, thank you for the call.
Unfortunately, just to, I have not been on Coast to Coast for quite a few years. I used to be very much a regular there. And so I'm not exactly sure what happened. In fact, I've been in the studio in Los Angeles with George and Tom, the producer, and so I mean, they took a picture of, in fact, of George Norrie and me one night in the studio. George was releasing his new book on contact with the dead. I can't remember the exact title. I was Talking to the Dead was the title, and George is holding his book. He's got his arm around me. In that picture appeared in the New York or the Los Angeles Times the next day. But anyway, there were, for some reason, there's other producers, the ones up in Washington, etc. And so what they did is one by one, they took my topics and had other people come in with complete garbage and replace my topics. And so topics that I'd been talking about since the old Art Bell days back in the 90s. So anyways, not certain what was happening, but I was probably becoming a bit too popular for some people's liking. That's my guess. And, of course, giving the wrong message, not the message they wanted to be promoting on a big station like, in Clear Channel, which is a very, very controlled outlet. Anyway, I don't know the whole story other than that's the reality.
Right. Well, I don't know if they still are, but Coast to Coast did have at one time the largest overnight radio audience in the United States, and I don't know if that's still the case or not. Okay. Let's move on from there, Jim, if you're ready. Any updates on any of your projects? We got a new year.
Very, very close. Very close. That's all I can say right now. Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
We're very, very close. No, very, very, very close. Anyway.
Oh, well, that sounds like, I'm not going to speculate on what time frame that would be, but very close sounds good. Okay. Well, what direction you want to go next, Jim?
You were talking about Trump tweeting and
yes.
Things like that, but a lot is going on in the background, and it's hard to really get a handle on a lot of things going on. But clearly, they cannot announce all of the arrests, and there's an interesting thing that's turned up. This is what's great about the internet, and even though as much as I don't like YouTube, a lot of information does come out. But this issue with Hillary Clinton and McCain wearing these boots, they're like a boot that you would use if you sprained your ankle or something.
Right. Moon boot, yeah. Right.
And McCain showed up with it on one foot at one point, and then he had it on the other foot,
right? Which
is really curious. And but anyway, the excuse for Hillary was that she had sprained her toe. She had you don't
put on a moon boot for spraining your toe.
Right. Obviously, the story didn't wash. But that was the story. But the real story appears to be that they have house arrest bracelets that they're covering up with these boots. And that was the funny part, that McCain actually changed, and they have the pictures of them in public, and McCain's changed feet. So it had one on one foot one time and another foot another time.
In close proximity in time.
Right,
We're
right.
not talking separated by a week, but separated by days, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot going on. That's all I can tell you. And this past week, Trump, about 2 weeks ago, actually, before Christmas, Trump signed an executive order that froze the assets of any company involved in terrorism or fraud or other activities that would be against the American public. And not only that, he made it illegal if somebody owed a debt to one of these or was going to contribute or somehow move money into these. He made it illegal to move that money into these designated accounts. And the word is that one of them is the Clinton Foundation. So anyway.
That's where the bodies are buried. Seriously. If I was involved, I would be looking at the Clinton Foundation with a microscope. Jim, we got a caller on hold here. We got Glenn in Philadelphia. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jim. Hi.
Good morning.
As I'm sure you're probably aware, we have a snowstorm coming up from the south along the east coast, and they're saying when it hits up New England, it may turn into what they're calling a bomb cyclone.
Right. We were talking about that a little earlier on the show.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Well, we've had these inland hurricanes now, and with these very nasty high altitude, rapidly hitting downdraft type storms and things like that. And I didn't hear what you said earlier, but I'm guessing, in terms of what causes, I'm guessing probably things related to the Gulf Stream and the jet stream and things like that. I don't know if any other man-made weather control modalities are involved, but I was just wondering what your take on that stuff was. Sorry I missed it earlier.
Yeah, just to continue, though, this is it has all of the smells of a Hurricane Sandy, where this manipulated storm, and I just looking during the break, they're expecting snow, fairly significant snow in northern Florida. So they've closed down, it said, like dozens of counties. The schools are closed. People are bracing for this because those houses in the south are not built for cold or heating, and I'm sure it's going to tax the infrastructure because most people there have electric heat, and they're going to be turning it all the way up. So we might see some infrastructure failures during this storm, not to mention the fact that it's cold and things break when it's cold. They're not set like the north.
With this recent deep cold, I know one of the bridges into New York was experiencing metal stress, I think, and it's some sort of shifting, and they had to close it. So,
yeah, they like in the Midwest, they build the bridges with gaps in them, and those will expand, many inches between winter and summer. So, if it's not designed into the difference between metal and cement, for example, or metal, cement, and tar, whatever the surface is, can cause havoc. And then when the spring melt comes, the water gets down in there, and then the next freeze that comes freezes it and breaks it apart more. And so, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of infrastructure damage from these storms.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that water water contracts until it hits freezing, and then when it starts to change state in the ice, it expands. A lot of people don't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
That aspect of things. But yeah, we're here in the suburbs of Philadelphia. They're only calling thus far for about an inch or less of snow starting around 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. But that's subject to change, I would think. But I'm just wondering how they would know so far in advance that this thing could indeed turn into a, quote, a bomb cyclone.
Right.
Where's all that additional energy coming from?
Well, that's the curious part, how I've seen this bombogenesis was another term they used, or bomb cyclone. And weather bombing is a term I coined and used on the radio a lot, especially even on, we're talking about coast to coast. I had talked a lot about it on there. And so weather bombing is a term that I developed for manipulated storms that bomb citizen regions. And it's a very effective way of neutralizing an enemy. So could there be something else on the heels of this so-called naturally occurring weather bomb? And, that's what I'm wondering too, because look in the grand scheme of things, Trump doesn't control this. This is all black ops, deep state stuff. Yeah, and so the question is, in the midst of the hurricane force wind where nobody can move and the entire Northeast is paralyzed, is something else going to happen? Some other natural disaster or terrorist act. So anyway, the all the cards are not on the table yet, so we'll see.
Right, exactly. All right, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks
Have a
for
good
the
day.
call, Glenn. We appreciate it. The call number is 800-313-9443. The thing about the deep state, Jim, is that these presidents come and go, but the deep state stays for decades. They don't go away, do they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that's the way it's been. Although what Trump is doing is effectively cleaning out Washington, and it's really a viper pit. It really is a deep state, and most of these people are just minions. They're just a clog in the wheel, in the gearbox, and they're essential to making it all work with their own greed and self-beneficiating, creating vast wealth for these people who will take money and other benefits at the expense of the American public. And there's lots of those people, lots of opportunists out there that see this as the way to, the future.
Right. Well, it's a generational thing for these bureaucrats, where we now got grandchildren and great-grandchildren of people who started under Roosevelt in these positions around Washington, D.C. and the federal government in general. It's self-perpetuating, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And if you look at the families that have made big money off the, military-industrial complex, they're the same families that were doing that in World War II. The guys that didn't go to war, they stayed home and ran the business to defend the country. Yeah, right, buddy. And that's still going on. But, it's the deep state is there, and it's very much necessary for the World Bank, which basically runs all of this, maintains the deep state to do exactly what it's doing, cause confusion. And you need those greedy people in there. And if you go all the way back to the Roman times, you'll see the same thing. The senators profiteering off of the armies out in the middle of, going up into the Black Forest and bringing back, wealth of wherever they were. And eventually the Roman Empire collapsed because of that, because they expanded it so far they couldn't control it anymore. But in Rome, the wealth just kept pouring in, and Rome continued for another 300 years off the residue of all the conquered lands.
That's right. And those families moved out and took their wealth with them when Rome collapsed, didn't they?
Right, and that's what people call old money.
Right.
Interesting, like, for example, when the Titanic went down, there were many really wealthy people who had made their money on the Industrial Revolution. That was called new money. And so the people with old money were the people that went way back. And those were the people that basically lived the life of royalty on the backs of everybody else throughout history, through the agony and torture and the wars and the devastation of this planet going way back. That was the old money. So, anyway.
Absolutely. And behind the scenes, the old money still controls things, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Rothschilds and it stems out of the Catholic Church in Rome. And they've got a pretty good gig going, no taxes wherever they are.
Right.
And
they've been captured and the Roman Church has been captured and compromised by the communists, best I can tell. We have a break. We got time for maybe one more call at 800-313-9443. Hello, we're back. I think we're back. Okay, now we're on air. Great. Sometimes this happens. Visiting with Professor James McCanny, his website's linked to my link page at thelibertyman.com. Jim, we got 3 minutes here to put out whatever you think's most important for these folks today. The first show of the year, sir.
Well, let's see. At the end of last year, I was talking about a hopeful future, and I do see that. So I'm taking that, say, positive sense, and we'll be working on projects that are very necessary. And here's the issue. We can no longer wait for government or government agencies, even under Trump. He's gutted out the global warming people, and there are people there with much better strategies, etc. But still, the major issues like harvesting water, which is very available, a lot of water is wasted and not used. So harvesting water is a big thing that citizens will have to actually initiate without government involvement, because these are not the traditional things that you would talk about in a government office. So changing the mode is going to be very difficult. So we just can't wait for government to respond anymore. There's a lot of good things going on in Washington now, but a lot of that has to do with cleaning up the old bad crap that's there. So anyway, what I want to do is move forward on mega projects that are necessary for the planet. So anyway, that's my direction.
All right. That's great, Jim. Well, we're off to a new year. We always have hope for any given new year, it seems like, and this is no exception. I hope that it will be a fun, safe, happy, prosperous year for all of us, that there will be no major incidents such as collapse of the economy or World War III or any disastrous things of that nature, and that President Trump will continue to incrementally dismantle the Obama administration bit by bit, piece by piece, as we move forward, as he's been doing the past 11 months. It's an amazing, certainly truly amazing time that we live in, isn't it, sir? Yeah,
and there again, that's bringing a lot of investment into this country. There's a lot of money coming back because of the new tax regulations, etc. So, and that's good. I mean, that's going to be spread around. That's money that's probably not going to be ill invested in stupid projects like three-blade wind generators, things like that. They're going to have to be in things that are actually viable.
That's right. Jim, thank you, sir. We look forward to having you back next Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right. That's our first hour. We got open lines hour 2. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. Prepper tip of the day. Gentlemen, if you want to be a hero for all the women in your group, do the following. Stock up on feminine hygiene and birth control products. Figure out exactly what you need and then double it. Last time I gave out this prepper tip about half a year ago, I got some compliments from some of the ladies, and this needs to be repeated occasionally because it's something that's frequently overlooked. So that's your prepper tip of the day, to stock up on feminine hygiene products and birth control products both. Make sure you get the right ones, by the way. Don't make any assumptions. We have open lines this hour. The call number is 800-313-9443. New year. This is the second live show of the year. You're on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. Looking forward to visiting with you folks the rest of this year and into the following year, of course. I was just contacted by one of my correspondents in the Netherlands and sent him a note saying I would be willing to come to the Netherlands to speak. And we'll see what happens. It'd be good to get back to Europe again and have another speaking engagement there. Last time I checked, more than 80,000 people have seen my presentation I did in Prague, Czech Republic, this past July. That's very gratifying. It's very gratifying. It is. And I've let my sponsor is aware of that. My sponsor is a retired psychiatrist, and she thought my message was so valuable that she made arrangements to award me the Prague Peace Prize and bring me to Prague, Czech Republic, to do a presentation there in a well-known and venue, the Lucerna Theater. It's a marvelous facility right there in downtown Prague. Beautiful place. Been there a long time. Of course, almost everything in downtown Prague has been there a long time. We don't know what old is until we get there. People call Europe the old country for a reason. I walked across the Charles Bridge where the Czechs stopped the Viking invasion. My wife asked me, she said, how do they do that? And I said, well, with axes and spears and swords and bows and arrows. That's how they did it. That's how they stopped the Viking invasion. They were on their way to Prague Castle, of course, and that was the last major barrier before Prague Castle, which is still in daily use, by the way. The federal government of the Czech Republic has offices there in Prague Castle, of all things. And there's a tavern there in Prague Castle serving alcohol that's been open for daily business since before Christopher Columbus came here. How about that? I mean, it's really. I didn't go in there myself. I was too busy to step inside the premises. But what a place! Beautiful, beautiful city. Clean, absolutely clean. Beautiful city. Lots of tourists walking around looking at the various sites. And I was very glad I was able to make that trip. We talk a lot about health here on the John Moore Show. A lot of people, younger people especially, they take their health for granted until things start falling apart. The way most Americans live their life most of the time is that I can eat anything I want, not eat anything I don't want to consume. And if something goes wrong, if I start having pain or having issues, I can go to a medical doctor, and that medical doctor will give me some pharmaceutical product to make the pain go away, and I can continue eating what I want and not eating what I don't want. That's the way most Americans, most of the time, live their lives, unfortunately. I don't live my life that way. And I know many of my listeners no longer live their life that way. If I continued living my life the way I did it when I was 20, 21, 22 years old, I would either be a 250-pound or 300-pound diabetic, or I'd be dead. There would be no third choice. I had a horrible diet. When I was 25 years old, the things I would eat, oh my goodness. Yeah. It was horrendous the way I ate back then. But along towards my mid to late 20s, I started wising up and educating myself about nutrition, and it's been very good for me to learn what nutrition really is. I was talking to my wife, Dr. Moore, the other day, and she was commenting on how to be healthy, people should eat what grows in their area when it's in season, or things that preserve well when things are not in season, things that are locally grown in your area, whatever that might be. And she made a comment, and this is from one of her doctors that she corresponds with. She made a comment that if an Eskimo was to consume the diet of a person who lives at the equator while living in their climate and their Eskimo cold climate up there, they would die if they ate the same things that people consumed at the equator. Conversely, people living at the equator, if they had the daily diet of an Eskimo while living at the equator, they would die. They would either die or be very unhealthy, one or the other. And I think that's a very astute observation. I really do. I know that I've changed my diet now that it got really cold. I was eating some things that were cold out of the refrigerator, and my body is just rejecting that to eat cold things out of the refrigerator when we're running the kind of temperatures we're running here. So I'm eating hot foods, and I feel a lot better for it. We have a couple of weekly guests that specialize in health. That would be Leon Green on Tuesdays, talking about doTERRA essential oils. Myself and Tom Berryhill, and frequently Tim Spencer on Thursdays, talking about the Energy Cleaner, which is a marvelous healing product. In fact, tomorrow, the second hour, we're going to have Steve Whitman with us as our special guest. I'll be interviewing Steve about his most recent book that I just finished reading, Shaker Madison, Conspiracy to Murder. I got the copy of the book here in my hands. Let's see. It's, what's the page count on this book? Let's see. 356 pages. Quick read. Very well done, unpredictable book. And I enjoyed it. It took about 4 or 5 days to read. So we'll be talking about Steve's book and how the Energy Cleaner literally saved his life a few years back. We'll talk about that a little bit also, and how the Energy Cleaner inadvertently, we didn't think about it or know about it or were planning on it, but helped cure his wife of lupus. So that'll be Steve Whitman tomorrow, the second hour. And of course, Fridays we have my personal physician, Dr. Phil Myers, on with us. And Dr. Myers, you never know what direction he'll be going in health-related matters. And we also have our health tip of the week with Dr. Myers. And on Tuesdays, we have our essential oil of the week with Leon Green. Keep in mind with Leon and myself, and Leon is really the sponsor, is offering a free rifle, R pistol, R shotgun course at Frontside if you buy one of the kits from doTERRA. We'll be talking about that next Tuesday also. We preempted our show yesterday because Leon, of course, is a former U.S. Navy officer, and he was so fascinated by the discussion that he gave up that hour to continue the discussion about the USS Liberty. We haven't talked very much about the Canaway hemp oil and products the last couple of months, but I am noticing more interest in hemp oil and medical marijuana since California legalized recreational hemp, recreational marijuana, the 1st of January, 2 days ago. There's been a lot of interest in the media about the marijuana use. And of course, the hemp oil, the medical marijuana, is an entirely different product. The ingredient that changes people's the psychotropic part, the THC, has been removed to the point where it doesn't affect your mental status at all. You can't get stoned on this stuff no matter how much you consume. It simply can't be done. But the health effects and health benefits are still there with the Canaway hemp oil medical marijuana there on my website. The headline on drugs just changed in the last few minutes. Apparently, there's a book being published that's quoting Steve Bannon extensively, and Bannon hammers on what was going on during the Trump campaign, meeting with a representative of a Russian, I should say. I don't know if that person represented the Russian government, but he hammers pretty hard on these, high-level Trump campaign people for meeting with this Russian in Trump Tower without the benefit of attorneys being present. And I have to agree with him. That meeting should not have happened. If it did happen, there should have been at another location other than Trump Tower, and there should have been attorneys present, and probably notification of the FBI following the meeting. It would be a matter of national security. But we'll see how this plays out. I don't believe it's going to be too disastrous for the president. I believe it will be something that will be dealt with effectively, and President Trump's administration will continue on doing what they're doing, which is helping make America great again. There's going to be a lot of Democratic senators and representatives with egg on their face when all their constituents start getting bigger paychecks as a consequence of the tax bill that was just passed. And like Professor McCanny was mentioning, money coming back to the United States. There's going to be a new investment in this country. Punitive tax codes push money away, and the money will go wherever it needs to go to make the best return. That's the nature of money. And the money will come back when the tax code is no longer punitive. That's exactly what's going to be taking place. We got a caller on hold here. We got Jeff in Massachusetts. Good morning, Jeff.
Oh, good morning, John. Well, John, thank you for having me on. John, I'd like to speak about a couple of things. First, on the top of my list, trucks. I have a truck driving license, CDL Class B license. Now, this is affecting mainly the Class A long-haul drivers, and it's called the electronic logging device.
Right.
This is something that Obama rammed right through, and it took effect on December 18th. Now there is a gap time to when truck drivers have to have this in here, like an implementation time, a wearing in time, so to speak. I call it.
Right. When's the drop dead date? When is the drop dead? When is the drop dead date to have it all installed?
I think it's a year. I think it's a year or two from now. I think it's 2019. But don't quote me on that. But simply put, this will hurt long haul drivers, and everything in this country is relying upon the long haul driver. Now, mind you, the long haul driver gets paid by the mile. I was doing some heavy duty research on this, listening to drivers and listening to their stories. And you see, the long haul driver is already getting croaked because these truck companies are very, very cheap, and they want to skinflint their drivers as it is. And this electronic logging device, they're going to need this like they need a hole in their head. No, union drivers don't care because they get paid by the hour, and even Class B drivers, a lot of Class B drivers get paid by the hour, but these poor guys get paid by the mile, and this is going to croak a lot of industries in this country because everything relies on trucks. Fuel relies on trucks. Food relies on trucks. Everything. I shop at Whole Foods. A lot of the foods that come from Whole Foods in the Massachusetts come from California. How did they get there? By truck. So this is a stealth measure that a lot of Americans are not going to see coming, and this is big.
It is.
What do you think?
Well, I have a number of listeners that are over-the-road truck drivers, and if you're an over-the-road truck driver and you got a comment on this, gentlemen and ladies, give us a call and give us your feedback on this new regulation, this electronic log deal. I know there's a lot of truckers that are very upset about this, Jeff. That's not news. And I thought it was already implemented. I didn't know there was a lag time for final implementation.
I think there's a lag time because a lot of truck drivers have to get on board with this. Now when I took up truck driving almost a couple of decades ago, I was trained that especially long haul drivers have to use a paper log. Now there are drawbacks with the old system, and I'm going to be honest. The paper log, a lot of truck drivers use two sets of logs, where they give one log to the police and the other log they give to their boss. And also, the tendency is truck drivers drive longer than they should. I think the legal time for a truck driver is about 11 to 12 hours, with a maximum of 14 hours of unloading and stuff like that. So simply put, truck drivers have a tendency to take greenies or amphetamines to get from point A to point B because of the stress in the industry. And yes, that is the underbelly of long-haul driving. and they're away from their families, and these guys really, really do have it hard. It's not this romantic picture that you see in the movie Smokey and the Bandit.
No, it's a hard way. It's a hard way to make a living. It's very hard.
Oh.
Right. All right.
It is. And
Jeff, I'm aware of a couple of wife and husband and wife teams over long haul drivers that with the husband and wife teams, they seem to be doing okay. They're okay with the lifestyle, and they do okay.
P.S. before I go, a lot of companies will only hire owner-operators, which means you have to own your truck or you don't get in. John, thank you for having me on.
Okay.
And any long-haul drivers, please call the program. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Jeff. We got a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. I got a request to give an update on what's going on in Iran with the protests there. The protests began in their sacred city over the dramatic increase in basic commodities like eggs, a 40% increase in eggs, and then quickly spread to other cities. If you ever see any photographs of Iran taken in the 1960s and 70s in the major cities, it looked just like any modern Western city with men and women walking around wearing normal clothes, engaging in normal activities of a modern, civilized, educated population. That's all changed, of course, since what was it, 1979, when the Ayatollah Khomeini took over. The women no longer dress in normal Western clothing. They're covered up head to toe with this 9th century burqa outfits that these women have to wear. They have no choice. They'd be punished if they don't wear the burqa when they're out in public. And of course, they can't go anywhere unless they've got a male escort, and so forth, and even to the extent of removing furniture from their homes, because Muhammad didn't have chairs, so since Muhammad didn't have chairs, nobody can have chairs. Isn't that special? A lot of speculation, and I've seen no evidence that Western intelligence services may be behind the protests. I don't live in the world of speculation. I live in the world of evidence. So possibly the protests in Iran are genuinely homegrown, domestic-led matters. There has to be some leadership behind the scenes for these things just to happen. in all these major cities almost at the same time. I don't believe it's completely spontaneous at all. So we shall see. We shall see. It would be great to have the Ayatollahs gone and a system of place put in, a government put in place there that would become a genuine republic. The odds of that happening, I'd say, are slim to none. It's probably going to be another autocratic dictatorship of some kind. If it was an autocratic dictatorship that supported the West and brought back Western values and Western norms to the country, that would be good for all of us, wouldn't it? I'm sure these women would not like to continue wearing these burqas a day longer than they have to. Given the option, I think probably 90%, 95% of these women would take those burqas and turn them into dishcloths or curtains or something, rather than be all covered up like that. So shall we still see? And that's my comments on Iran. Getting back to health, I had lunch with my younger brother yesterday, and I was mentioning the transition that took place around 1912, just before the First World War, here in the United States, with Andrew Carnegie and Carnegie money being used to convert the homeopathic teaching hospitals, which almost all American teaching hospitals were homeopathic, and convert them to allopathic teaching hospitals. We had a country that was very healthy and getting healthier in 1912, using the homeopathic modality. Quite frankly, it's been downhill ever since, going from homeopathic to allopathic. Now, at the time in 1912, homeopathic was the traditional medicine that was being used. Most medical doctors, most of the time, were homeopathic doctors. Of course, that's all changed. We've had a century now, basically 4 or 5 generations of doctors coming out of these, what have become allopathic teaching hospitals. What they do is they teach these doctors how to diagnose symptoms. And then they teach these doctors how to prescribe pharmaceutical products to make those symptoms go away, or use other procedures. In discussions recently, I was talking to somebody about PSA, and this individual was very worried about his PSA being elevated in a relatively short period of time. And I was telling him how that may or may not be related to cancer. It may be related to sugar consumption. Sugar consumption can elevate PSA also. Myself, this is going back, about 16, 17 years ago, I had a PSA test and it came out as 12, and the people who offered the test said, "Oh, you need to go to see a urologist." So I did, and he said, "John, unless it's up around 300, I don't even want to talk to you." Here's our bottom of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. My website is thelibertyman.com. We've taken some things off there. If you're, for example, Field Manual FM 31-20, the Special Forces Field Manual has been removed. I have sold these for quite a few years. The publisher has gone out of business, and so that's no longer available, for example. One parcel of real estate we had listed for sale is now removed. It's been sold. They're waiting for a closing right now. That was the Own Your Own Valley section. That's been removed. And, of course, we move forward into 2018 with our project, and it is our project. All you listeners are the ones making this happen. I can't possibly watch the hundreds of thousands of hours of movies and TV shows that have been produced the last 60 years. But incrementally, all of you out there can watch movies and TV shows and locate images of continents with new coastlines. This all took off a year ago this month with a listener finding an excellent, sharp image, a 3 by 5 foot black and white image of North America with new coastlines on the TV show Highway Patrol with Broderick Crawford. I was watching the live shows when I was a boy, or I should say the new episodes when I was a boy. They weren't live, obviously. And we moved on from there to find about 16 more images of various movies and TV shows in 2017. If you find an image of a continent with new coastlines on a TV show or a movie, get that image, get that screen capture to me, and you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. We've got people who've earned 2 and 3 DVDs, by the way, finding images. Now, some are more diligent than others in doing this. And, of course, we have health-related items at my website also. The hemp oil, medical marijuana from Canaway, right there on the left side of my home page, right below the photograph of me and my motorcycle. On the right side of my home page, we've got the energy cleaners. You scroll down pretty far. The energy cleaner and the mattress pads that go with them. Marvelous healing devices. That's what the energy cleaners are. If you have arthritis pain, we have not had anybody with arthritis pain who didn't get relief. It's pretty phenomenal. Joint pain, back pain, it'll probably help with all those things. Not getting a great night's sleep. Well, using a pharmaceutical product to sleep is not healthy. It's not a good quality sleep. But the energy cleaner will help you have a good, sound, healthy sleep. I use mine every night. I've been an energy cleaner user now continuously for 8 years, and I'm glad that I do it. I find it very helpful for my overall health, and you will also, almost without a doubt. We're now offering a 90-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner. So you can make your purchase, the energy cleaner and the mattress pads, right there at my website using PayPal. PayPal is marvelous. It now takes payment if you live in the U.S. And PayPal, of course, is the most secure way to make any payment online. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Diners Club. You can send me a check. Send me a check. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free hour line, 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Health is not optional. I do private consultations. So I meet people and get to know them pretty well to help them meet their goals, actually develop the goals and gain clarity and gain focus on what those goals can be and should be. And I usually, at some point during that consultation, I'll form an opinion about the person's health or the health of the team members of the team that they're putting together. It depends on the consultation, of course. I've had clients I worked with that are scraping by economically, others that are quite well off economically, and everybody in between. And having optimal health is not optional. It really isn't, in my opinion. And I think most people would agree with me. If you don't have your health, what do you have? Not much. Seriously, not much. So that's why we focus so much on health-related matters here on the John Moore Show, because it is so incredibly important. And I hope that you will pay more attention to health and nutrition yourself this year. Nutrition is where it's at, by the way. I'm learning, and it's an ongoing quest for knowledge myself to learn more about nutrition, what works, what doesn't work, staying away from the things that no human being should consume. Most public water supplies, quite frankly, are not fit for human consumption. Seriously, they're not, without being filtered in some manner, using either the Berkey filters that I offer for sale or Professor McCanney's water filters, gravity-fed water filters that will turn that city water supply into something that you really can and should consume. I would say a huge percentage of Americans don't consume healthy water and don't consume enough healthy water. My wife, Dr. Moore, had a patient back in the 1980s, a woman. She seemed to have a very, of average or above average intelligence, successful in her chosen career, and took pride in not consuming water, ever. I don't know who she was. My wife doesn't share personal information about her patients, just general things without identifying who they are. That's the ethical thing to do. And I was astonished, just like she was astonished, of a normal, healthy, educated woman taking pride in not drinking water. So years ago, I was guilty of the same thing. I did not consume enough water. Now, recently, because of nutritional changes, I've no longer have the desire for coffee as I have had in the past. There were years, literally years, where I would consume a quart or more of coffee before noon every day, and then continue drinking coffee later in the day. At the moment, my coffee consumption is typically 1 cup in the morning and another cup possibly mid-afternoon. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I look forward to that 1 cup of coffee. And typically, before I'm even finished drinking 1 full cup, typically it might be only 3/4 of a cup. I feel that desire has been satisfied, and I just set it down, and I may warm it up later in the day to finish up that 2nd cup of coffee. I have a French press. I grind my own coffee beans with a antique hand grinder and use a French press to make the coffee, and it's handy for making 1 or 2 or even 4 cups if I choose to. I started drinking coffee when I was in Vietnam, working long hours, and it was a satisfying drink for me, and so that was a long time ago, half a century ago, that I began consuming coffee. It's kind of funny how these experts go back and forth every few years saying that this is good for you, this is bad for you, oh, this is good again for you, where it was bad for you. I believe coffee in moderate amounts causes no harm and may have some benefits to it. My wife, Dr. Moore, saves the coffee grounds to put on plants because it helps stimulate plant growth, of all things, which now that I think about it, doesn't really surprise me. The caffeine is stimulating to human beings. Why wouldn't it be stimulating plants? Of course it would be. That makes perfect sense. So, yes, a new year ahead of us. We're in the middle of winter here. It'll be springtime in about 3 months in March, January, February, March, depending on how far north you are. We usually here in the south central Missouri, we start getting some pretty decent weather in March. And these cycles are always interesting to observe, be part of here as we go through winter, summer, spring, and fall. So looking forward to the new year and the springtime, there's some things you may want to think about, such as ultraviolet protection. Right now, it's not too much of an issue, but beginning around March or April, it's going to become an issue once again. We've got a link to the EPA here on my website, where you can put any zip code in there you want. I'll just put my zip code in there, 65456, and I'll see the ultraviolet index for my zip code today. Here it'll pop up momentarily from the EPA, and it's a 2. That's very low. So it says we might want to wear sunglasses. They say if you burn easily, you may want to use a cover-up or use sunscreen. Well, I don't. It does say that if there's snow on the ground, that can double the ultraviolet strength. Water does the same thing, by the way. Ultraviolet will bounce off water, and the ultraviolet will bounce off snow. So essentially doubling the exposure you're getting. It has gotten stronger. Now, most people are not. I would say a very, very small percentage, and this is just my personal asking people around my neighborhood, very small percentage of people are even aware there's such a thing as an ultraviolet index. I wouldn't speculate on the percentage, but it's very small. Now, the original ultraviolet index went from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. However, the energy from the sun increased, and they had to increase the ultraviolet index. So 1 to 5 is not too bad. Once you get to 6 and higher, you start getting more serious, and 6 is not all that high. Now, here in south central Missouri, in the summer months, June, July, and August, we run 8 to 10 pretty much every day of the week, and that can cause harm. Harm being skin cancer. Now, you don't want to mess around with skin cancer. A very dear friend of mine, his name's Ron. He had a patch of skin cancer on the right side of his head there, just above the temple area, and it was something he dealt with effectively using B17, Laetrile, apricot kernels, and some other things that he used. But it's a terrible thing to have to deal with. Now, you can't tell he ever had it now, but it got to be about the size of a silver dollar. They're about 2 inches in diameter, and an open oozing wound of skin cancer. I have another neighbor here, a cattle rancher, who goes to the medical doctor and have them burn off the skin cancer tumors on his arms and his face that he's been getting for years. The skin burns off. And typically these patches are about the size of a dime or a nickel. You get them burned off, and life goes on. There's special clothing that a person can purchase for ultraviolet protection. I don't know if I've got any on my website or not under John Survival and Tactical Gear, but special shirts, special hats that it will give extra protection from ultraviolet. I've not bought any of these things myself. I use light-colored cotton shirts when I'm out in that environment. I don't go out with short sleeves. That's a typical American male and American female will go out in these harmful radiation situations wearing only a T-shirt, sometimes a sleeveless T-shirt, no hat, or maybe the men around here, they wear a baseball hat which offers almost no protection against ultraviolet for your ears and neck and face, just the bill of the hat, assuming they wear the bill facing forward. But I wear a hat with a wide brim. I want to be out in this environment. doing whatever I might be doing, running the Kubota tractor, brush hogging, using the chainsaw, whatever it might be. Long sleeves, my old dress shirts are perfect for that. All my dress shirts are pure cotton, and a light-colored cotton dress shirt that's no longer suitable for dress wear is perfect for that kind of environment. They're cool and protect you from the ultraviolet. In my opinion, I think I've had pretty good success doing that. So you need to be aware of this. Commercial sunscreens are dangerous. They have carcinogens in them. I do not use commercial sunscreens. I use the protection I just mentioned, wide brim hats. I have a wide brim straw hat that I wear for working outdoors. It gives excellent protection from the sun. Sometimes, depending on work, I may use a handkerchief to protect my neck and ears. I'll just like the French Foreign Legion with those hats that they would wear that would protect their necks and ears. So it would be tucked into the backside of the hat, of the wide brim straw hat, and hang down over my neck and ears to give extra protection from the ultraviolet. The sun is different than when I was a child. It is. It's dramatically different. People comment on how they feel a burning sensation on bare skin in minutes, literally minutes. You don't have to take a half an hour, 3 to 5 minutes. People feel a burning sensation in the hot summer direct sunlight here in south central Missouri, and I'm sure most other places on the planet as well. A burning sensation. Now that would never happen 30 or 40 years ago, but it's happening now. I can't say how long it's been going on, about 20 plus years. And you need to be aware of this. You need to be take prudent precautions to make sure you don't get too much ultraviolet on your skin. Now, vitamin D can be absorbed from direct sunlight, and it can be healthy to hold your face up to direct sunlight with your eyes closed, obviously, something to protect your eyes for, I would say no more than 15 minutes to get a good dose of vitamin D every day. That would be a smart thing to do, and a healthy thing to do, and it doesn't cost you anything, just a few minutes of your time. Getting vitamin D in that manner is a very healthy thing to do, and I try to get some direct sunlight exposure every day. Here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 3rd day of January. First week of the year, second live show of the year. We're continuing to move forward here at Republic Broadcasting. If you're a regular listener, please consider making a donation to Republic Broadcasting. It would help. Things are tight. We have an excellent crew here at Republic Broadcasting, men and women who are working with some equipment that needs to be replaced or updated, quite frankly, but the money simply isn't there at the moment to do that. Occasionally when you hear glitches in the show, for whatever reason, it's frequently because of older equipment that needs to be replaced, and the funds simply aren't there yet. So I would encourage you to please consider making it, and a regular donation, monthly donation would be very helpful to have income that Mr. Stapmiller can count on. I'm doing my part with our promotion with the energy cleaner to offer energy cleaners at a $75 discount, and contributing, and Tom Berryhill is a sponsor of this, of course. Tom Berryhill contributing $200 to Republic Broadcasting twice a month. So it's at $400 a month helps a lot for Republic Broadcasting. And your 10 or 20 or $30 a month would be a big help also. Tomorrow we will have Tim Spencer possibly with us, Tom Berryhill. We'll be talking for a few minutes about the energy cleaner. The second hour, Mr. Steve Whitman talking about his new book that I just finished reading, Shaker Madison, Conspiracy and Murder. Great book. If you want an entertaining read, it's very well done. And then Friday, we'll have Tom Berryhill on the first hour talking about emergency communications. We're starting New Ham Radio Club here in our area in March. Everybody, in my opinion, should have those skills. I don't believe it's optional. In the second hour, of course, tomorrow Friday, we'll have Dr. Phil Myers talking about health-related matters. And he started on a new journey himself, promoting people getting younger. And I think he'll have a lot of success with it. A lot of people are looking to have more youthful outlook on life and a more youthful health for themselves. That would be a good thing for everybody, wouldn't it? So moving forward, here we are, 2018, year of our Lord, 2018. I have a lot of optimism for our country, our economy, for peace, for wiping ISIS off the face of the planet, for dealing with the Muslims that want to kill us, and on and on. I have a lot of optimism. In the meantime, I encourage people to be prepared, because it's a fast-changing world, and it could change in very adverse ways very quickly. And being prepared to deal with it is just a wise thing to do. Just another form of insurance. Having that food, that water, and medical supplies, firearms, ammunition, communications equipment, a safe haven, all those things are just prudent, in my opinion. And I think that will be proven true as we move forward. In the meantime, get your medical supplies, your energy cleaning, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.